Loch Maree has a unique distinction. It's the largest freshwater loch north of the Great Glen. Maree, though, why Maree? It sounds a very feminine name. In fact, it's called after a saint called Saint Milrua. Maruig in Gaelic, and the name became corrupted to Maree. That's its explanation, but the loch is actually called after an island, a very special island, a very hard one to get to. Sailing is not always easy, and that's where I'm going. My first problem was to get a boat. Peter MacDonald, who has the fishing rights in the loch, was willing to take me, but only if I had permission to land on the island from the landowner, Mr. John Mackenzie. All the islands of Loch Maree are sites of special scientific importance under the management of the Nature Conservancy Council. Well, that took a couple of days to arrange, and now I feel at peace with the world. To get such a calm day for Loch Maree, it can be gey stormy, and navigation is none too easy. There's a lot of shallows in this loch, which is said to be more like Loch Lomond than any other, due to its general shape, its bonny banks, and archipelago of islands. Well, I'm ready to hop out now. Okay. Well, this is the wishing tree. Look at all the coins that are in it. There's one down. Now, somebody's put that in for good luck, and I'm going to put one in for good luck as well, because people came to this island to hammer a coin into the tree. I'm putting a 10-pence piece in because this tree has died of copper sickness. Now, I bet there's a lot of valuable coins due to old age in here. They used to come to a holy well, which is now filled in, I believe. They would wish a wish and go away contented. But very much earlier than that, when Thomas Pennant paid a visit somewhere around the beginning of the 19th century, what he found was that the island was still being visited to cure mental illness, and the cure was pretty drastic. They went to the holy well, took a sip of the waters, they left a present, then they went to the holy well again, left another present, and then they were dipped in the loch 3 times, and they did that every day until they were cured. And it's reckoned some of them were cured. This raised mound in the centre of the island was the monastery area of Saint Milrua, and the Celtic missionaries who followed him. It's still being used as a burial ground, although the last burial seemed to have been sometime around the late 1920s. But the 2 stones that everybody seems to remember about this island belong to a Norwegian prince and the daughter of a Celtic chief who married in the 12th century. He'd been called away to the wars, and the wife began to doubt his love and to test it. She pretended to be dead when he came back. And the prince, who was distracted with grief, stabbed himself, and she plucked the knife from him and stabbed herself. And this is their burial ground. The oak tree was sacred to the Druids, and it's said that this island was a Druid worshipping place before St Milrua came to it. Parish records at Dingwall record pagan rites as late as the 17th century. Holly is a symbol of Christianity, and it's said that St Milrua planted it here. Now the trees have taken over and there isn't much room to walk. I want to go now to the eastern shore, which even today is still completely roadless. Almost 900 years after the death of St Milrua, something was to happen that was to change the face of this country, and it happened only 1 mile east of the Holy Island. It was the finding of iron, 1,700 veins of it, and everything was here to smelt out the iron from the ore, the trees. The natural oaks made perfect charcoal, and from 1607 onward, for the next 60 years, all sorts of articles were manufactured here, and amongst them, cannons for war. And this spot is still known today as Furnace. And I'm going away up to see what remains of these old workings. The very first iron ever made in Scotland from wood. Aye, it's strange to think of the things that were produced. The wrought iron could be hammered immediately into the articles required, but for heavier things, the smelting was done to make pig beds, you know, so that when the molten stuff came out into a mould, it could be taken away in one sheet. And it was easy to get away because at the head of this loch, there's nothing. But at the top end, it gives way to the sea almost immediately. So there was a good export trade. The boats would come in, take it away and bring fresh iron ore when it was expired here. And it must have been a very, very good trade. And the people who were involved in it were mainly called English, even if they came from Fife, because they didn't speak Gaelic. The iron smelting stopped because, to quote the old records, the woods of it were all spent and the lease expired. No wonder the woods were spent, for the oaks were being consumed at a rate of 20 acres daily for fuel. The oak trees have taken their revenge. They've grown up round the foundations of the old building. You would hardly know there was ever a great iron works. Look at the moss covering the old stones, covering the slag as well. But long after it's been forgotten, it'll be remembered because this river is called the Furnace River. The Loch Maree Hotel at Taradale could be called the Mecca for salmon and trout fishermen, who find some of the finest sport in Britain in the exceptionally clear water just out from it. It's a lovely spot. On the 12th day of September 1877, Queen Victoria came to see Loch Maree and the surrounding district, and she stayed 6 nights in the inn over there. And she wanted this stone. She willed, by her condescension, that this would be a remembrancer of the 6 days she spent in this delightful part of Russia. This forest walk is a more permanent memorial in some ways to Queen Victoria. The Victoria Falls, a 3-storey fall at that. Must go up and look at the top. Grand, but I'm glad you can't feel the midges biting, for there's hardly a breath of wind in this Forestry Commission spruce forest. I'm sure it wasn't here in Queen Victoria's day. These dense modern plantations grow fast compared to the tree that's natural to the western shore of Loch Maree, the Caledonian pine. In 1951, something of great natural history importance happened in Loch Maree side. 11,000 acres of shore and hill became the Benny National Nature Reserve, the very first reserve to be set up by government. And to make it accessible to the public, 2 fine trails were built so that people could enjoy the scenery and the wildlife. Today, this is the greatest fragment of primeval forest left in Loch Maree side, the wood of the Grey Slope. It was ravaged by the Norsemen in the 10th century, later used by local folk for ordinary living, and then plundered again in 2 world wars. In 1983, the Minister of the European Commission made a presentation to the Nature Conservancy Council for the way it married conservation and recreation, for the building of the mountain trails for the public to enjoy and go away with a deeper understanding of how the forestry programme works. Edwin Cross was an estate worker before he became warden.